Your severe asthma says you can't? Tespire says you can. Tespire is an add-on treatment for people 12 and over that helps you prevent attacks and relieve asthma symptoms. Tespire is not a rescue medication. Serious allergic reactions may occur. Get help for swelling of your face, mouth, tongue, trouble breathing. Rash or eye allergy can happen. Don't stop asking.
Come on, family. Happy Sunday. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Hope you are doing well. Oh, there we go. Got some light going on in here. I don't know if you can hear me loud and clear. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Who you got in the Super Bowl? If you're a football person, put it down below in the chat. If you're not, that is perfectly fine. That's why we still show up, because it's like life goes on. It's a football game, okay? Happy Sunday. It's a football game. Some people are like, I don't really care about the Super Bowl. Like, it doesn't do anything to me any justice. I'd rather learn here and make money, or learn a new skill set to grow myself, whatever it might be. So that's why we still show up. But I did want to be mindful of those individuals that are like, Brian, why would you do this during the Super Bowl? Like, so that's why I'm doing it a little bit earlier today. So we're going to get in and out of here. You already know my sentiment if you watched yesterday's video. So let's go ahead and start it off, okay? Welcome to the channel, everybody. Welcome to our Stock Sermon Sunday. The title today is a Stock Super Bowl Sunday, okay? We're going to go over what the market looks like for this upcoming week, our economic calendar, our earnings calendar as well. And then we'll look at what I talked about yesterday in the video. If you did not check that out, I would highly recommend go and check that out, because the market's always full of surprises, as we know. So I want to make sure that we are prepared for anything and then react accordingly to the overall market via trading. And also, people have a lot of questions now. I just want to see Bad Bunny. I understand, Jerry. I understand. Folks will be jamming. Folks going to be jamming in their living rooms and wherever they are here in Vegas. So, you know, all the folks fly in, and, you know, I'm just like, I'm here. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Beautiful weather. So if anyone came to Vegas to watch the Super Bowl and be a part of all the sports books, they're going to enjoy themselves for sure. All right. So let's jump into it. Cool. All right, everybody. We've got a couple of things on the docket that I just want to get kind of some housekeeping stuff going on. If you are already in Leverage University, we've got some exciting things coming. If you've already seen, I'll show you when I share my screen here, but we are developing our back end of the university, which is, I've developed, I don't know how many courses over the course of my coaching career / lifetime. In the last 10 years of coaching and consulting full time in the life coaching space, business coaching space, which I still do to this day. I just don't talk about those private clients a lot of times in the entrepreneurial space. But I wanted to make sure that people that come into our ecosystem, and for those of you that like to share what we're doing and what you're a part of, I take pride in that. So if you're sharing it with your friends, family, colleagues, you know, anyone that you have around you, like, hey, I'm doing this trading, I want to learn, right? And you push them towards an entity or a system or a person, right? Or a program. I just want to make sure that that is the best thing possible. So what does that mean? That means we have a plethora of courses. I know I have given all on the channel here, but some people, you know, are more systemized, right? They like to come into a program and kind of follow the system. And even for many of you, you have questions inside of our community where it's like, hey, do you have a video on this? Or do you have a video on that? Right? I'm always taking, you know, that into consideration to put it into a formula. So we have roughly around 6 to 7 kind of mini courses that we'll be teaching our community members a little bit more technical, so I don't have to explain it every single time. You can just go and review. So that is coming. I'm trying to get it done before the end of February, going into kind of Q2. So that is exciting. As well as our merch line. Thank you so much. Many of you have received some items. Some of you should be receiving some items very soon. You should have gotten a shipping confirmation there. So we have had our merch line for our new Leverage Signature collection, which is just Leverage in a signature font. Mine is coming in soon. So if you're like, why aren't you wearing your own stuff? Mine's coming in as well. So I'm a part of the community too. So I'm excited for many of you to be sharing and tagging and all those good things and representing our community. So I appreciate that. What else? That's really it for right now. If anything else comes up, we'd love to have you inside. No pressure, no strings attached, no nothing. Just would love to have you at some point. All right, cool. Let's jump into the share screen and get up out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Evening. Let's go into the economic calendar here. Okay. And I'm going to do also a review of last week, because if you didn't watch the video, which some people don't, which is fine, right? I want to make sure that people are understanding what happened last week. So we get a sentiment of the previous week, like, Brian, we were so bearish, we were so bearish, we were so bearish. And then on Friday, we squeeze back up. Are we back? Like, was that the dip? Was that the bottom? Did I miss? And we don't want to get into that FOMO opportunity. So if you picked up some dips on some share opportunities, or maybe some of you snuck in some long dated call options, right? I want to keep you on your toes this week. All right. So we've got our economic calendar from this week, and we've got a couple Fed speakers. Okay. That just signifies that these Fed speakers will be giving remarks around whether we need rate cuts or whether we need pauses, or what's going to maybe happen at the next Fed meeting, what happened the previous Fed meeting. So that's a lot of kind of talking going on, and that can affect the market. Fed Bostic typically affects the market a lot there. Waller, we know him, Fed governor speaks. And then we have on Tuesday our retail data report, but a lot of these, as you can see, are delayed from last week. So it kind of still feels like we're behind the 8 ball, which is why the market was selling off a little bit more aggressively, because we don't have the data necessary. So it's kind of like a back and forth battle here. We have data, we have good data, we have crappy data with the job losses and the layoffs, and then we have good data with consumer sentiment, and then we're back with this data. So I don't want to overcomplicate things, but I'm just saying that with this kind of back and forth and stuff that maybe people don't know about or aren't familiar with, I don't want, as I always say on this channel, anyone to be shocked by what happens, right? I wasn't shocked by Friday. I was like, oh, okay, it's a short squeeze. Cool. Some people were like, man, we're back. And then I don't want you to be shocked if we pull back next week or consolidate and settle in, and then we're like, man, we're back down again. Like, what's going on? I don't want anyone to be shocked by that. That is the volatility that we're in right now. Up, down, up, down, up, down in a channel. People think we're back, and then we're back down, then we're back, then we're back down. Okay. We got our unemployment rates. Let's see if that even comes in on Wednesday. Okay. That's going to be highly important. That's supposed to be our NFP report, non-farm payrolls report, which is going to be very, very interesting if that does come out, because the layoffs that we had recently, right? Remember our that big data report, many of you all saw it on the news and whatnot, that there's been as many layoffs and job losses and filing for unemployment since 2009. So if this NFP report on Wednesday comes in shaky or positive or neutral or however it is, then that can shake up the market, right? So that could send us right back down or spur us higher, whatever it wants to do, okay? Here we are into Thursday. We got jobless claims. That's going to be important. Okay. Existing home sales at 10 a.m. And then we got CPI, Consumer Price Index, how our consumer prices are doing. So another volatile week of data that's coming in that can move the markets one way or the other and, trap people again. Right. So it's really, in my opinion, a buy the dip on 5, 6, 10% pullbacks. A lot of individual stocks that many of you have grabbed up. Maybe it's your hoods, some crypto, various other quantum stocks and other stocks that have been more speculative, that have dropped 60, 70, 80%. Maybe you've picked a little bit up of those. That's perfectly fine, right? But in general, what's happening with the overall broad market is that we're still consolidating, okay? We're still settling in to where, can we come lower, or do we just sit in the middle and just confuse people in the middle? All right. So keep picking up your shares, keeping up your dips. But in my opinion, for trading purposes, my community asks me this all the time when we're in live trading and when we're in our master classes each week. Dr. B, James, are we good for swing trades yet? Is it time for like swing big calls? And I still think it's a day trader's market. It's still a day trader's market, in my opinion, right now. Maybe some short swings, right? That means maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, something like that we could swing back to the upside. Yes, we're oversold on a lot of things. So just be careful out there. Trim your profits if you do take swing trades. For those that don't know, if you're new, if you've been invited here, a swing trade is a trade that you carry over into the next day and or week and or month, right? It takes longer to play out. Day trade is exactly what we call it. We're in and out within that period of day, whether it's a win and or loss. Okay. Cool. Let's look at our earnings calendar. Let me make sure all the stuff is good there. All right. Y'all more than welcome to go ahead and put any individual stocks that you have available that you'd like me to cover, or any questions that you have down below, because this one is going to be a little bit more shortened / expedited, I should say. Just there's really not much to talk about other than just how this week is going to go. And I'm not going to give a whole spiel like I normally do. All right. But I am going to leave with words of wisdom today, because I think if you're a believer, for me personally, God has been speaking through me as of late. And I feel like some people just need a word of encouragement sometimes. Like, is this really for me? Like, the losses kind of hit me, Dr. B, or I'm good. Like, is this really real? Can this continue? And then something hits, and are you resilient enough to stay forward? All right. So I'll leave you with words of wisdom as we round out here. Here's our earnings whispers calendar here. We can see it's another heavy week. We're starting to get into, the long-term share stocks, some as we call it, sleepers. It's not your major tech stocks per se, but a lot of sleepers here. What does that mean? That means that let's look on Monday. What do we got? I mean, I think Open Door could be interesting. I have questions around their business model and in general. I think their fundamentals are kind of questionable, but that's just my opinion. I've looked at their debt to income ratio and their free cash flow. Yeah, that could be interesting there. We got the home sales data. So we talked about that in our masterclass, that some home stocks could be moving, some real estate stocks. My real estate investor out there, if you want to put that inside of our community, more than welcome, and we can look at that. On Tuesday, Datadog, okay? That's one I've been mentioning for a while, that's on a big discount, in my opinion. Great financials. They're roughly around 80% EBITDA or net profit margins in their business model. So great business model there. Let's see if the earnings actually reflect it. They got down to, I think, right around $100 per share. They pulled back from, I'll have to look at the chart, I think mid 200s. I think they got up to like low to mid 200s. So don't quote me on that, but Datadog, very interesting business model there. I know it's in the software space, so that's the only reason it's getting hit so much, because all this software stocks have been getting hit and beat up. But as far as the business goes, I think Datadog has a great business model. Their financials look good. So keep an eye on that this week as far as potential shares, or we can look at potential call options. We can maybe even look at something before. But that looks good there. Fiserv, also one that's been absolutely beaten down. Personally, just, I mean, when I show you that chart, let me just jump to it really quick, okay? I've been doing some research on this stock personally, and I'm just like, is this something that can come back? Or, I mean, look at the monthly chart. It was a $238 stock, and now it's $60. Okay. That's when you get interested in saying, this is a, quote unquote, I wouldn't say blue chip company, but very much a company that was riding the wave, kind of like an Oracle and whatnot, that, if you want to take a look at it, that's one that's very interesting when you see these stocks beaten down and says, is it a moat? Is this just something on discount now? Should I be watching this for some shares? Can this double back up to 120 plus? So I'll definitely take a look at that personally. I'm not going to give any financial advice here, but I like how the chart has pulled back personally, and need to look into the company just a little bit more. But yeah, that's interesting. Why did that happen? Is that a fluke? Is it real? So on and so forth. If you got insight, you're more than welcome to put it down below. Okay. Lyft. A lot of people have been waiting on Lyft earnings. Lyft is now profitable. It is sitting between roughly $14 to $16. I think that's a great pickup there. Can it come lower? Yes, always. But Lyft, in my opinion, is a $30 plus stock. There's a gap fill all the way up to 30 plus. So if you can pick some shares up, get involved, I would highly recommend that. Not financial advice, but that is one, in my opinion, that I would take a look at. Robinhood, you're like, how'd you skip over Robinhood? That is a no-brainer. Okay. It got down to $67 and some change on the lows in the after hours session. It is now up to the mid 80s already. So it's already popped $15. I think personally, if you've not gotten involved in Robinhood inside of Leverage University, we were involved in Robinhood underneath $10. But I think still personally around the $50 to $70 range, in that $20 range, is a great dip buy pickup. If you want a round even number, if you can have an average cost personally underneath $100, I think that's great. So Robinhood there. As far as swing calls or trading it, we'll take a look at it when we get into our live trading room, and I'll look at it on the charts as well, because it did do a V bottom reversal on Friday. That just means we woke up in the morning, gapped up, and it continued. So we got to find an entry or just trade momentum. Okay. It looks like it's trying to get back to that $90 round psychological level, but things don't go straight up. They'll come back down, go up, come back down. We don't know if this is the actual bottom just yet. Okay. Let's look at some other Upstart. Also interesting there. Taking a look at that. Shopify. This is one that I've been trying to keep an eye on because it could be back to 140 very quickly. But these earnings have been a little bit shaky from a lot of these companies. These companies are solid, but it's something around the ecosystem that it's earnings come out and then we drop, right? I think the only earnings that have risen after was Eli Lilly and a couple others, but most of the earnings have had blowout earnings and drop. So it's kind of difficult to say, man, these companies going to beat earnings and then are they going to pop or drop, which is why we kind of wait till after earnings. The safest thing to do is pick up some shares if you'd like to. If you'd like to do a lotto call and put it out 3, 4, or 5 months, be my guest personally. But Shopify, Robinhood, Lyft, Datadog, I know Spotify is going to be a mover, and just keep an eye on Fiserv. Coinbase, AppLovin's a big mover there. Let's see, a couple others. McDonald's, we definitely keep an eye on that for sure. It's been moving and grooving. And mRNA in the healthcare space, that's been nice on a pop. And that's about it for right now. I mean, I Rivian, you can point out any of these that I'm very familiar with in their charts and what they're doing. But yeah, as far as what we trade, Applied Materials, AMAT, that could be interesting. Dutch Bros, a big fan of Dutch Bros. Personally, I've talked about that when we called it out in the community. It has been popping nicely. I think it is a big competitor. We called Dutch Bros down here at $25, $30, went to 86, and now it's sitting back at 50. Okay. So let me check the chat to make sure everyone's good. All right. Everyone's still good. We're good to go. No one's got any questions today. We're just listening. All right. Let's go over our charts here on the SPY and go into that yearly looks crazy. Let's go into our weekly chart here. And I covered this a little bit yesterday, but I will briefly overview for those that already watched the video from Saturday. Okay. We have an interesting chart here, and I know it looks extremely bullish from just that one day on Friday. But if you can see here, we've got to respect the chart that we are consolidating back into this range. All right. Above 686, 687. Okay. Remember what we were watching before, and I'll go down to the daily in a second, but we were watching that 691 level. Okay. That 691 was very interesting there, right around that area. Okay. That 691. Can we get back above there? Can we mount back above that 694? This zone right here is going to be very interesting to see what we do. Okay. The 694 is ES 7000. Okay. ES futures, the futures market of the S&P 500, 7,000, a round even number right in the zone. And then the 691 is just an area on SPY personally that has been rejecting a couple of times. You can see right there, got back under it right here, struggling on some closes there on a weekly. Okay. And then we still closed underneath that on Friday. We just squeezed up from everyone exiting their short positions. Okay. Just a massive squeeze on Friday. All right. So SPY definitely a little bit stronger. I'll show you the cues in just a second, but mark that line there, roughly 687, and then 686 is what we'll see closer into a daily chart. Okay. So this area here is going to be very interesting in what we do. Okay. Do we hold above it and just sit and consolidate and go higher based off data, or do we chop around and then data comes out and then we roll back down? Okay. Let's go into our daily chart here. Okay. You can see it roughly again now that I have my daily moving averages on. Okay. So if you mark your daily moving averages, that's 691. Okay. If we do pull back on Monday or Tuesday, you would want to watch for my bulls or anyone that's looking for calls and don't want to short this market, because you're like, that is a major candle right there. I do not want to get in front of that as far as playing against it just yet. then you want to watch for a pullback back into that 687, 686 level. It's just kind of messy right in here because 689 was also a little bit of a support there. You can see there. Okay. So I just want to watch when we do pull back, what pullback level do we see buyers step back in? Is it 687? Is it 689? Do we break back above, go higher? Do we give everything back very quickly and then we fill this gap back down? We just need to watch on Monday and Tuesday and see how we react. Okay. Okay, let's jump into a hourly candle here really quick and look at this top wick. And you can see this, the levels a little bit clearer there, right there around that 691 wicked into there. Okay, wicked into there. You can see my yellow zones right here where we held support, 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 support. So if we pull back into there, that's what the area we want to watch to see, do we hold that to go higher? Okay. Or do we pull back, bounce, sit here, and then we roll back down? Okay. So just want to keep that on everyone's watch just so you don't get so horned up on the Friday move, right? Just like everyone got so short here, right? And I told my community, if y'all remember, I said, I expect a bounce. That's why I was waiting for the market to bounce and come up into that 686. And you see, we did get a wick there, but consumer sentiment sent us higher. Okay. If that consumer sentiment wasn't strong, right, we would have probably rejected this area and come back right there like we normally do. Okay. Filled that imbalance gap. But because the data, that's what injects a short squeeze, we were inevitably going to retest this area. So I said, man, okay, cool. Look at that. Do you see how perfectly, and that's sometimes what trading does, right? You see that perfectly right there, bam, right into that level. And then normally we would fill that gap. And then I was comfortable saying, okay, cool. We fill that and then go back up, but it doesn't happen like that. Okay. So that's fine. It wanted to bounce right here, 683, and then grind higher, then grind and grind and grind. And that's due to data and everyone exiting their short positions. Okay. Qs. Now this chart is a little bit more clear to me personally. The Qs did not rebound as aggressively. So the Qs, or the NASDAQ, or our tech index, as you can see a little bit clearer here, SPY recovered pretty strong there. Why was that, Dr. B? Because of finance and some of our semiconductors recovering. Finance was pretty strong on Friday, right? But if we look at our overall tech, right, it was just semis. I mean, Google was still kind of selling. Amazon didn't recover that massively. Apple didn't go with the market. Like Meta was still selling on Friday. Did anyone notice those? Put the one down in the chat. Do you look around the market and see what was actually moving the market? Was it big tech, like our Mag 7 that was really squeezing? Or was it just finance and a couple other stocks and some semiconductors? All right. That's what I'm personally looking at to see, now, what's really moving this thing? If everything's not in tandem together, okay. If I saw Amazon squeezing all the way back up, Google breaking out, Apple breaking out above 280, then I would have probably been a little bit more quote unquote bullish. But I'm going into this week a little bit more neutral. Okay. Why? Because this dip was inevitable. But if you can see, and if you watch my moving average video, right, I keep talking about this, that QQQ is still below 612. Where's 612? Right below our twin tower highs from, like we always talk about this, October tariffs, NVIDIA earnings. These two highs right here, bam right there, bam right there. Where do we push right back up into? Okay. What does that mean? That means if we continue to push up higher, okay, you want to watch what we do in this area. Okay. If we continue to push up higher, watch what we do in this area. Okay. How do we react? Do we close another strong green candle like that? Do we close a strong green candle like this? Or do we get up into here, wick, and turn around and turn that red? Okay. And then it would look something like this. Retest the lows and then potentially take out the lows. Okay. And that would have just been a lower high bounce. Okay. Very similar to here. I want you to look at this. You see this candle here? Let me turn off some of these. Sometimes going back, it's like, I still don't see it. Look at this candle right there. You see how it bounced off 697 right back up into 612? And what did it do afterwards if it can't continue? 2 follow candles, bam, bam, new low, bam, bam, new low, new low. Okay, right back up into this kind of zone. Okay, so if that candle gives you a little bit more insight right here, then that looks very familiar to this. Right there, right there. Okay, so that's why I have that resistance right around 612 to see how we react on QQQ. Okay, cool. Now, if we go down to our hourly on Qs, look at the top wick right into 612. If we do not get going and get going and get going and fall back below that 607, okay, that 607, then we're coming right back to the lows, back to 600. Okay. Now, the key thing is, do buyers, if we do pull back, do buyers hold that low and then we just rip? That would give me a confirmed bottom to say, okay, this is a firm support. Buyers have clearly stepped back in, but if they continue, then I'm like, okay, nothing's changed. Friday was just a short squeeze. Nothing's changed. We're still going lower. Okay. So that's how I get my sentiment per day. I don't have a, hey, we're bearish or hey, we're bullish. I'm just reacting off the candles to say, yeah, doesn't surprise me that support held up, but does that mean we're bullish back going to all-time highs yet? No. Okay. Give me a 1 in the chat. Does that make sense for everybody? Ones. Does that make sense? Okay. I just want everyone to see the chart clearly for what it is instead of getting opinionated and emotional one way or the other. Okay. Now IWM, a little bit more neutral here. All right. It's either going to break into new highs and this was a bull flag and we take out the highs like that, or we reject 265 and we come back again. It's just back into a neutral zone, right? Nice little, we said where it was coming back to, it just V bottomed. And I don't know how many times my community's got to say, Brian, you keep telling us V bottoms. Like, if you know what it is, then why don't you take advantage of it? Because it's difficult. It's not as easy as you think when you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, I don't know if this is going to go lower or not. So I don't want to swing trade it. I'll pick up shares, but I don't want to enter calls on that type of candle low. And then we wake up in the morning and we're already gapped up and then we continue. I'm like, ask any trader that's been in the market for a while if this is an easy thing to catch. Like, hey, how do you catch a bottom? Did you catch that big squeeze? That's difficult. Okay. It's not as easy as some of you like, man, I won on it. Okay, great. That's fine. But managing risk when you just gap up, how many dollars and then you just continue is not as easy as you think. Okay. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that this is awesome, right? Shares, great. We got a dip on the shares, on Hood, on Bitcoin, on your respective crypto stocks, right? But we have to form a bottom, right, to actually see, if that is a true support, right? And how do you do that? You start looking at the weekly candles over a period of time, okay? So that's a strong weekly candle in IWM that held up. That's a pretty strong weekly candle in my opinion, okay? Daily candle, pretty strong there, and we've gotten back above some key moving averages on a daily. Right here, we held up this one. We got back above this one pretty significantly, right? So 263, 260 holding up as support. If that continues to hold, then I probably want to just move this up here and say, that pulls back like that, and then we just grind up, then that's more of a bull flag to me. Okay. So I'll just be watching that this week on IWM, but I do think there will be a bigger pullback on IWM once it finds where it's actually consolidating top is. Okay. SMH, very big here that we need to watch. Nice hold there. If you don't know what SMH is, it is the semiconductor ETF. So if you like to trade NVIDIA, AMD, wondering what's going on with those, right, then you want to watch the SMH alongside your SPY and QQQ. So if you're trading those and wondering if it's the bottom or can it pull back more, yes, it can always do that. But right now the SMH is holding up this really nice 380 support right on that moving average of the 50. reclaimed this daily 20 moving average and trying to retest the highs. So what I would watch this week on the SMH is roughly around 398 to 400. Okay. 398 to 400. Now we do have this little gap in balance. So if we fail, right, just say, I mean, look, you got to look left. There's still a lot of resistance here. If I pull this down, look to your left. Okay. So we squeeze right back up into a prior resistance level right here, right there, former lows right there. So I have to respect that. So we're right back up into it. Okay. So if we give up 400 or we hold it or we consolidate right around here, okay, then I want to watch that to see how we react. Okay. So we pull here, there. Do we break above? Okay, cool. Semis are strong. Or do semis want to pull back? Okay. So 400, 398, I would mark that on your charts for the SMH. That would help you trading NVIDIA, AMD, so on and so forth a little bit better there. All right. Let's jump into our Mag 7 here. Okay. And this is where I want you to pay attention as to how they reacted on Friday for the Mag 7. Okay. So let's touch on Apple. Okay. Apple has been strong, right? It's been a recovery move prior to when the market recovered. So as the market was going down, Apple was going up. That's relative strength, right? But if you've noticed up here, and we've been talking about it inside of our community, that Apple has been having a tough time getting above that 280. So if you notice, Apple really didn't go anywhere as the market was squeezing on Friday, right? It tried to, rejected, tried to, came back, right? So it's multiple wicks here, wick, 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 big top wick, right? Kind of a lower high wick, and it's just staying underneath that 280. So in my opinion, I think Apple is becoming, I would say, a little exhausted and needs to pull back, okay? So if we see this resistance hold, Apple will try to first touch back to 270, okay? And then 268, okay? And the moment that we're not paying attention to it, which we got to keep an eye on it every day inside of our live trading room, because we've been scalping this, but haven't got any continuation. So we've been in puts. Okay. Is it today? Nope. Puts today? Nope. Puts today? Nope. Puts today? We've been getting 30 to 50% on the trade, but it hasn't been giving that big breakdown pullback like we want. Okay. And it will inevitably happen. Okay. So you want to keep your alerts on and watch that. I would watch maybe underneath this 276. Okay. 276. I would keep an eye on that because that would be the previous daily candle low and also this daily open right here. So underneath that 276, you can see the reaction, the possibilities of what could happen here pulling back. Now, that's just a small target. The big target will be repeating this. Okay, all the way back down, pull back into 263. Okay, and it would look like that. Does that mean it's bearish? No, right? That's a neckline rejection. See, neckline right there. And then that could continue. Okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I have beginners on here, this inverse head and shoulders right here. Breakout. When you have a breakout of a neckline, the neckline is right there. Okay, whoops, golly, it's a lot of. There's your left shoulder. There's your head. There's your right shoulder. There's your neckline right there. You see how that big break and then it continues? You typically have what we call a neckline retest. Okay. It retests that area that acts now as support. So where is that? Roughly 263. So pay attention to that. Even if you don't trade it, you don't catch it. I want you to watch it eventually, and I'll mention it on our next video. I'm like, you see how that happened? If it's back at 263, that will help you in your future trading to see these formations and see how these things are supposed to play out over a period of time. So when you're watching traders or you're a part of our community and you're like, what is he talking about? Why does he think it's going to pull back to 263? Because I've seen it multiple times. Once you see these things, then you're like, oh, I remember that. All right. Cool. So I want you to watch this on Apple, even if you don't trade it, to see what Apple does. Okay. Because this is a technical formation, and see what it does there. What do you do back at the neckline? Well, now that's support. We see if that holds. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Just checking the chat really quick. All right, cool. Everybody good? No questions? Let's go through Google. Okay. Google, I've got a daily 20 rejection here. This was a trade I was watching on Friday that, of course, went without me. I think I mentioned it to the group multiple times. I think the day before I was like, I'm interested in this Google rejection right here off of 333. And it just went without me. And I looked up and I'm like, it's 100% trade. Okay. So Google, I would look at your daily moving averages there. It's pinned in between them. Not the prettiest chart here, but it is back underneath that 330 level. So I just marked 330, see what it does there. That's that overhead, quote unquote, resistance / supply. If the boxes help you out a lot, you can see right there, got above there. There's a rejection. There's a rejection. It's back into kind of this zoned box here. If I move this back down, so you just look left, what did it do in this zone? Underneath 330, has the potential to pull back to that 315 and some change. If it just stays in this range, I'd probably be a little bit more neutral, just waiting to see what it does. Okay. This is what we call an inside bar. Okay. So it's inside of this previous big bullish, quote unquote, candle, but we are forming lower highs here. So yet again, quote unquote, strike number 2, where we've got our Mag 7 stock that did not go up when the market was squeezing. So if you want a consensus, like if you're looking for like, does this dude know what he's talking about? Like short squeeze, no, we're bullish. I'm trying to give you at least my thesis of how do I get to know, or how do traders know that, how do you know if it's bullish or a short squeeze, or how do you know if a fake out's coming, or how do you know so confidently that a trap was there? Because I'm watching the overall market, right, to see what was actually moving it. Okay. So Apple wasn't moving up any higher as the market was squeezing. Google wasn't moving up any higher as the market was squeezing. Amazon, right? This, in my opinion, was just a short squeeze. Everyone exiting their shorts because how we grind it up. Okay. Amazon did not do a big bam right back up. Okay. Does not mean it's don't pick up a dip. Does not mean that, you know, Trent, shout out Trent, trade these calls back up really quick. Okay. I'm just watching the price action to see, okay, cool. We're grinding. If we continue to grind, we continue to break out new highs. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. We're back. All right. So I'll watch that on this week as well. What Amazon does, do we continue to fill this gap, or do we grind and then it rolls over and we come down lower? Okay. If I zoom out on Amazon, I want you to look at this as well. Okay. Where are we on Amazon on the daily moving average stacks? Underneath all of them pretty significantly, all right? Okay. With gaps below. Okay. Also, I want you to watch this level on Amazon this week. So pick up your shares. If you picked up some shares, I think Amazon underneath $200 steal. Anywhere underneath $200 steal personally. Okay. So Amazon, I want us to watch this area here on this week. We get back and mount back above 212, then we can start pushing back up into the highs of this gap. If we start rejecting this 212 area, then we'll start consolidating underneath it. You can see how big that 210, 212 area is. Where do we go down to? Roughly underneath 200 right there, and we're underneath it again. Okay, so I'll just watch that to see as far as trading it. Okay, if it breaks above that 212, then we can squeeze a little bit higher and we can get that gap fill. Okay, Amazon, in my opinion, going to get bought up pretty quickly on any dips. So I suspect Amazon to recover a little quicker there. Microsoft, okay, again, not a massive squeeze on Friday. Look, Microsoft formed a little bit of a hammer candle, but in my opinion, with how that squeeze was going on SPY, QQQ, and whatnot, you'd have probably wanted to see Microsoft squeeze $15, $20, something like that. Okay, did not move, right? So pick up your shares, pick up your dips on Microsoft. It is in a buy zone, in my opinion. Okay, Microsoft filled that gap in balance. It's back down to 390. That is a support where buyers are heavy in that area. Okay, so I love this Microsoft chart where it is. Okay, see that big buyer area there, and software will recover. Okay, so this chart, in my opinion, looks like it is in a firm form. It's going to be firm, as we call it, macro support, macro demand. Okay, I'm on a weekly chart and I get big reactions off of this 390, bam, 390, bam, and then 390. You see how significant that candle was there. So this is a macro support. So I would say Microsoft looks more at a very, very good level here as far as potentially trading those calls back up, because we can trust that this weekly level is very massive. All right. So this is a chart that I do like for calls or being a little bit more bullish on, to say, hey, I think we've reached a pretty decent short-term bottom where we can trust that level a little bit more on a weekly chart. All right. Now, could we come lower? Yes, always. But I think software will recover pretty nicely. All right. Let's look at Meta. Okay. Meta on a weekly chart ended off red here and then kind of flat there. It's just kind of struggling right around this area on the moving averages, but still above 600. Maybe watch 650 on Meta, just kind of what it does. Anytime we're stacked up on those moving averages like that, what does it do? Like, I don't know what it's trying to do here. Okay. So as far as trading it, as far as picking up a dip, always, I mean, pick up your shares, dollar cost average into your favorite stocks on any dips. Don't have to be too firm on that as far as, you know, picking up dips if you enjoy Meta. But Tesla, really big weekly support here on Tesla, 387, 390. Okay. Pretty big weekly support there. What I would watch overhead is that 414 level, that 2021 high. If we get back above 414.50, which will be right here. Okay. You see that 2021 high. We get back above that area and mount above, then Tesla can start getting some more bullish action back again. Okay. Back up to 430, back up to 440. Really nice chart here on Tesla, right? It's very similar to Microsoft, reached a nice weekly support there. A lot of folks may have different opinions. Like, you know, I think Tesla, you know, I personally believe Tesla is overvalued. Just my opinion. I think it's overvalued. I think it can pull back a little bit further here, but stocks don't just tank right off the bat on one weekly candle. Okay. So want to watch this area this week on Tesla. Does it mount above? Is this a cup and a handle? Brian, that's a bull flag. I see all that. I see all that. So just got to react and see what Tesla does at that 415. Okay. 415 mount above. We can start pushing, stays below it. Maybe it pulls back to 400, but Tesla is starting to try to build a base here. Okay. Before I jump into crypto, Coinbase, so on and so forth, let's jump into our semiconductors. NVIDIA, massive short squeeze on Friday. Just absolutely massive. I don't have anything to say about that other than I got squeezed out of my position. So there's that. I was expecting NVIDIA personally, and this is why, you know, if the trade doesn't work, cool. 10% on my A+ setups, I'm wrong. Stop out, get out of it. Cool. Right. Here's a trade idea. If you're not in our trade room inside Leverage University, I was watching on NVIDIA. Okay. This was dead end support. Okay. So we wake up in the morning and it's gapped up, but it's gapped up heading right into this big level here. Okay. Seen this plenty of times, and until it broke, I was like, cool, we're bullish. That's fine. Awesome. We're going to go back. I think I mentioned in our trade room before we left, I was like, NVIDIA's going to 183, 184. We're going to retest that level. There's nothing else there, but just could not find an entry personally for me personally on a risk to reward as we were grinding up like that. Could have scalped it, but just left it alone. But NVIDIA just ran through that 179 there. Okay. Now I want you to watch this on a 5-minute. Okay. When we were headed into data, okay, NVIDIA was rejecting my area here, okay, with a nice candle, in my opinion, on the lows there. And typically with that type of candle, I'm looking for a pullback at least to the opening print, right? After a big gap up from 171, and then we move all the way to 181. And here is what I was looking for, okay? Just so y'all know, like, where my thesis was, if I didn't already mention it multiple times on Friday's trading session, okay? You see right there, there's a fib from, and I don't usually use fibs on, shorter time frames, but if I look at that fib, I was looking for this. For those of you that are like, why do you choose the 175, 177.5 puts? Because y'all know that trade that happened all the time, right? And I would have switched to calls once it got back down here and gone up. So after this candle pulled back, I was looking for it to pull back into the 50% retracement, which would have been right at 176. and the 61.8 would have been right there. Okay. And then bounce, bam, go. Okay. That was my trade idea on Friday, and it just didn't do it. It just stayed above pre-market highs and grinded, and positive news came out, and then we squeezed, and then we went into this slow, low liquidity grind on a Friday. Okay. So what does that mean now? Okay. I'm going to watch this 184 level again. Okay. We remain above 184, 185. NVIDIA is going to try to push back up into this 191 level, and we're back up into the same zone that we have been playing around with up in here, which is nasty in my opinion. Okay. So I'll be paying close attention to the SMH and also what QQQ does with NVIDIA. Okay. I'll be paying attention to both of those because, as we know, when it gaps up this far, okay, that 15-minute RSI at the highs here, and then also a 30-minute RSI, our MACD potentially curling here on 30. That would be more so of a short scalp day trading there, and then see where we pull back to. If we continue to grind, right, and we never have a pullback, that's even more to me that there will be a little bit more of a pullback there personally, right? NVIDIA does have earnings at the end of this month, so this will be very data dependent. But I would look at this area of support right here if we did pull back on NVIDIA, because buyers are stepping back in before their earnings. But here, right there, 177, where I was wanting it to, and then see if we can go higher. Okay. So NVIDIA, very, very bullish here, in my opinion, because it's right up against that daily 200 moving average, never gets below that. I don't remember the last time it got below that, but we'll see. Yeah, last time it got below it was here in 2025 when we had that big, massive pullback. Is it still possible that NVIDIA could form a little bit of a head and shoulders, but it would need help from the market, right? If that's going to happen, it would need help from the market overall, that the market's tanking, something's going on. Otherwise, stay more neutral in here and then to bullish if we're above 184. Okay. People had questions about AMD. Okay. AMD is in an interesting spot. Okay. It's at an interesting spot. Why? Because it's stuck in between these moving averages. Didn't reach the daily 200 there. Stuck in between underneath these. But as long as your pivot point is above 203, okay? So watch 203, what it does. 203 holds 203, wants to grind higher, maybe back up into 220. We can see if that plays out, and this is a bullish consolidation, and then we roll back higher, okay? So I'll be watching that 203 to see how we do there. If we hold it, then we're going higher. If we break back below, we're coming lower on 203. Palantir, okay? Pretty simple here, in my opinion. Draw your box, draw your zone here on Palantir. You can see right there, 169 and 142 to 143. Okay. See that box there? It's underneath the box. Okay. More bearish consolidation. Could it come lower? Yes. Next level on Palantir will be roughly around 120. Okay. So if it retests the lows, 120, and then a lot of people have underneath 100. Yes, I do see that. But until it starts happening, we'll reassess. Okay. So Palantir needs to mount back above 150 and get back in this zone to go higher. So I would not get faked out about this. We could look at the downside or mount back above that 143 to 150. I would probably give it more 150 personally, just to make sure it gets back up above some of these levels. You can see right there, even if it pops back up into that 145, that's still a pretty strong support turn resistance at 145. All right. AVGO, don't really have anything. I don't like making predictions off of a short squeeze on Friday. I've got to see what Monday looks like, which for those of you in Leverage University and for those of you, will offer, a small little percentage fee for those if you're not in. I will do that towards the end. So if you want to stay on in the next 15 minutes, I will announce that of what it is if you want to join this week. Okay. MU, daily moving averages. Daily moving averages. I probably will watch a lot on Monday after Friday. Anytime I take a little bit of a red paper cut. I had a great week last week and then a little paper cut on Friday. So I'll probably watch on Monday. I'll be in our live trading room tomorrow morning, but I'll probably watch and may not even take a trade. May just watch. So we'll see. IBM, nothing there that I like. INTC, I've been watching this because INTC is at an interesting weekly level. Okay. This 50 to 53, right? It's been bullish, 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 bullish up into this area. It's got a little gap fill that needs to finish. But once it finishes that gap, does it roll back over? I'm not sure. But I don't mind trading this. I don't mind trading when it's at big weekly resistances, even though it's a quote unquote slower mover. So if it fills this gap or we get back below 50, what does it do in this area? Okay. Qualcomm had its earnings. I think its earnings was pretty decent here. Maybe in support. Not really interested. In phase. Nice monthly candle there. I need to do more research on, the company. This big gap here. Solar, I know it's been booming. Energy, we're going to need it. But this is an interesting looking chart here breaking out on in phase. All right. Datadog. All right. This chart right here, very, very interesting. Okay. This is what I was talking about is I want to see what Datadog does this week for earnings. There's a lot of potential upside back to 180 to 200 and it's sitting at $100. It kind of reminds me of like an MU chart when it's just sitting down here and whatnot, getting beat down. And there's all this room back to the upside. So I kind of want to see what their earnings do, but this is a decent risk to reward. In my opinion, 140 is if you've never seen Datadog move, when it moves, it is a big mover when it gets positive news. I mean, it went from 130 to 160 in one day, or excuse me, in 1 week. Okay. It can move 150 to 190 in 1 week. Right. So if you've never taken a look at Datadog, I would definitely take a look at it. Go type in your AI software and say, tell me more about Datadog. All right. Oracle. Share buying anywhere at the weekly 200 there. It's got to hold that up. 135. Not much volume coming off of there, but nice risk to reward back to the upside, in my opinion. So nice area. Nice area on Oracle personally at 135. That chart looks beautiful. All right. Let's jump into crypto, and I'm going to end off. Get your questions in, and then we'll get up out of here. Crypto. Dr. B, where do you see Bitcoin going? Is this the bottom? Are we back? Like, is this the bottom? This was our zone 2. Okay. This was our zone 2 buying area on crypto, more specifically on Bitcoin. Okay. Zone 1 was right here at about 70 to 75,000. 60,000 was our big zone 2 buying opportunity. Okay. What does that mean? That means that this zone, if you believe in Bitcoin, believe in crypto, having some type of average cost, it doesn't mean you have to have a whole Bitcoin. If you can't afford that, I get it, right? If you are rather do the IBITs and BITOs, those are ETFs, right? And you don't mess with Bitcoin or crypto, that's perfectly fine. We're not here to push any type of asset class, but Bitcoin reached a really, really good level and it still is in a good zone. So you didn't miss the boat. If you're like, man, I should have grabbed it like when I saw it hit 60 and blah, 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 blah. Like, bottoms aren't created on one tick back up. Okay. Bottoms are not created on one tick back up. We need to see how the month finishes off. We need to see how, because this month could continue and this turns back and we continue lower. Okay. So you still may have lower. That's why I consider it a zone 2. Okay. Zone 3 load up zone would be roughly around that 42 to 45,000. I know some, speculations. I don't want to, speculate that low down to 38 just yet until we break underneath 60. Then I'm like, ooh, that 38 is looking potential, right? Kind of like what we did up here until we got underneath 80, 60 was a potential. Now we've gotten underneath or touched 60. Can we get to 50? Can we get to 40? Right? So your dollar cost averaging on the way down on Bitcoin or your respective crypto stocks. Okay. ETFs. Ethereum, 1,800 was that level. Okay. 1,500 is a possibility. It's right in that zone. I mean, it's right there. It's clear as day. 15 to 1800 on Ethereum if you believe in Ethereum, but I think most people have just moved over into Bitcoin. Told everyone Solana underneath $100, right? If you believe in Solana underneath 100, if we can get Solana back to 50, 40s, that would be even better. So Solana underneath $100, great pickup there just to diversify if you'd like. I still have questions about MicroStrategy. Personally, I'd rather just buy Bitcoin. So if you're a believer in MicroStrategy, do your thing. But yeah, I'd rather just buy Bitcoin personally. Let's see. Coinbase. This is one that we inside the community, and shout out to my boy James, we typically pick up Conal, CONL, on Coinbase. So Conal is the leverage version of Coinbase there, and you can pick it up underneath $10. Okay, so many people can afford 100 shares of this. Okay, so this is the leverage version of Coinbase. Okay, so $5 to $7. If we can get it back into the fours, anywhere around this $5 range, look at when we get back into the bull run of crypto. Okay, here it is back in 2023 when crypto ran and Bitcoin was running. Okay, it went to $87. So Conal, cheat code there on Coinbase. Okay, so many people are like, man, I can't, get 100 shares of this stock. Like, somebody's probably got $700 they're probably going to spend on Super Bowl weekend. Just saying. Okay. You can get your 100 shares. If you can afford 1,000, that's cool too. Whatever. If you can afford 25, right? That's fine. But just think about the return. Excuse me. Back to 30. Just with shares. So you just turned 500, 600, 700 bucks into 3,000. Okay. So you do the math. Good risk to reward here on Conal, CONL, Coinbase leveraged version. Does that mean you can't pick up the full Coinbase? No. But again, giving people different options to say, man, I can get the leverage version cheaper, grab more shares, and maybe have less risk, potentially, and less volatility, right? And go from there. Okay. But Coinbase still in a good level here. You can see Coinbase right at 150. I like that. At least back to 200 on Coinbase. Now, is this the bottom? We don't know, but I would like a retest back to 150 if possible. But if 150 is the bottom, then we can just start curling. We'll be back at 200 before we know it. Okay. As far as the miners, I like Riot personally versus Yamara, in my opinion. I think Riot is a great miner here. Okay, crypto miners, because it has some news / partnerships with AMD. So Riot it reached down to around $11, $10. Okay, the high was up here at 23. Do as you wish with that. Okay, where it's been, you can start calculating, especially on quality companies that may not break out. But if you can just take it from $11, $12, $10 back to $24, $25, $30, there's your double up on your money. All right. So I tell anyone, just think about investing that way instead of saying, man, this is going to be a home run all the way back to 80. It could be. Just get the best average cost in quality stocks, quality companies, right, that you believe in certain sectors, diversify, and then hold on the dips. Okay. CleanSpark, another one that we like personally. But again, if you'd rather just put your money into crypto, into Bitcoin, into IBIT, into BITO, just following Bitcoin, I would do that personally. But CleanSpark has been really nice to us. We've been trading it for the last 3, 4, or 5 years since we've been doing Leverage University since 2021. Right. So we've been catching it roughly here on the dips down to $3, $4, back up to 25. Is sitting underneath 10. Okay. Back up to 25. There you go. So everyone's asking about XRP. I thought $1, that was our pullback zone. If y'all remember that, been mentioning that. Anyone, what do you think about XRP? Not up here. It's a straight up move into a consolidation, right? And the next Bitcoin halving will have a pullback. So XRP will probably pull back, and it hit $1. So if you believe in XRP, I think $1. I think personally, if Bitcoin can get lower, right? If we can get Bitcoin underneath 60, underneath 55, if we can get that number, that will give you XRP back underneath $1. Okay. So DCA underneath 150, do your thing there, rotating it. And there's so many TikToks and whatnot. I don't even want to get into it of XRP is going to be the next Bitcoin to 500, 600, 700, 1,000 plus. It could be, right? I don't focus on that. I focus on having a good quality company or something I believe in and looking at the charts of where it's been first. And as long as I have a lower average cost of where it's been, then I know it's at least going to return to there, right? So I dollar cost average on dips and then just hold. So first we got to get to 4 and then we got to get to $5, right? Like what does the valuation have to be on XRP for it to be $1 million? That's the question. I'm not saying it can't do these things because they're going to come back to this video like, look, told you so. Like a lot of us have XRP, underneath 75 cents. Okay. So anywhere around $1, you're going to win regardless. It's just a matter of how much money you're going to put into it and how long you're going to hold. Right. So there's my 2 cents. I focus on where it's been before. And then if it clears that, then we can go to the next level. Take it step by step by step, because I don't want to, get to my high horse about, whatever it might be. And then something happens and then, XRP doesn't exist anymore. Right. So I focus on $3.60, $4 first. If I do that, that doubles, triples, quadruples my money, no matter what. Get me? So if you start thinking about investing that way, personally, not financial advice, I got to keep saying that stuff around here. But if you do that, then it will lower the angst of saying, man, I could be a billionaire off this thing, right? Take it step by step. Okay. For those that believed in Bitcoin underneath $1,000 back in 2012, right? 2010, 08, right? When it was $100, $200, people were just giving it out here. You do whatever. It's going to be something and just hold. Right. And then one day XRP, we look up, it's at $100. Right. It is a Solana type thing. Right. So very similar. Solana was at $8. That's Solana. Golly. That 2022 Solana was just, I was holding so much Solana and then sold Solana at 100. Yeah. About thousands and thousands and thousands of Solana. I'm like, oh my God. Anyways, what questions do we have thus far to end us off? Glad it's earlier. Yes, let's go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Connell's a winner. I highly agree to purchase some shares. You won't regret it. Yep. Coinbase, Connell. Beautiful. Grab up those. Awesome. Cool. All right, folks. I will end off here. We'll see who wins tonight. I got Seahawks, so we'll see. We shall see. I think the veterans will come through on the Seahawks, but we'll see what Drake May and his team does. Either way, I'm chilling by the pool, so I'm worried about the week. I'm not worried about what they're doing personally. But it should be fun. Have fun. Y'all be safe. And I will see y'all in live trading. If you're not yet in Leverage University and you would like a special code, right, to give a small percentage off, you see my Instagram right there, right? If you're not on Instagram, or X, if you're maybe on Twitter, okay, one of those, if you could, just shoot me a message. Say, hey, Brian, I was on your live. I'd like to join this week. I'll give you a special code off of that for a Super Bowl Sunday. All right. Do that this evening, by this evening, and I will see y'all first thing in the morning for live trading. Okay. Peace, love, and blessings. No questions tonight. I think everyone's just like, hey, get in, get out, and we're good. I'll see y'all tomorrow. All right.